Hey there. Good evening. How y'all doing? Um, I share what I experience. I listened to Hoona Flash this afternoon, and he talked about upgrades, and I share what I experience here on the Big Island. 5 magnets, right? It's you know 5 fingers, the 5 finger people, right? Um, but what I do is I monitor different channels of folks that I know that have information or knowledge that they hold in a circulation library, and then they share what's held in their library. Okay. And that allows me to be able to translate who the communicator is by virtue of that. And so when I see, for example, titles that are on their videos, okay, particularly when it comes to like what we call pole shift, okay. Now I'm a monopole, an oversoul, okay, so I know something about polarity. Okay, so when we talk about a pole shift, and you have negative slash positive, which is electrical currents, negative and positive. Okay, so when you look at a flat Earth model or simply a flat compass, you have the center point, right? That's the center point of a sphere, okay, which is the center point of Earth, okay, which is its core. Okay, that's the warp drive. So then you have what are known as hyperdrives, hyperbore, right? I heard the word once, hyperborean. So a monopole is a single pole. Okay, that's a monopole. So that's monatomic speed. Okay, which means the one connected to the point of origin, which is the center point of any compass, which is the center point of any gyrodome, right? Which is the center point of any magnetosphere. Magneto. That's the kickstart. Potassium, sodium ions. There's your heart wave, right? Your EKG. So K is potassium, right? Potassium, sodium ions, electrons, protons, neutrons, etc. Okay. So the reason that I share this is that it's pretty unavoidable, because I don't go deep into this subject, because now I end up getting lost in the whole tree of information in the circulation libraries. And what I find often, even with myself, is because the tree of information, which is a circulation library that's held in RAM memory by virtue of the QI, which is inorganic, right, which is dead light, okay, which is say it's like a dead light magnet. Okay, because it's operating off of what? Fractured souls. So you know the difference between service to self, right, and what it means to be in love and service to others. Now, if you put it into the perspective of what's been shared across the spectrum on different channels over time, and you can actually add up, because we know this by mapping, how many units of consciousness or souls were able to be woken up by spirit, which is like clearing the cobwebs, which is breaking through the lines of communication, which is the Skynet, that was preventing codes and light from being able to come in here, which is like grounding the rod of God, which is the one, right, which is a monopole, from which now that becomes like a buzzsaw, which means burning through all the lines of communication, which are all the goo codes, particularly the black goo codes, right, upon which the spirit is now experiencing more light. And when the spirit is experiencing more living light, which is real light, which is one light, source from which it all comes, that allows that spirit to wake that soul up. Hey, wake up. Ding, 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 ding. I call it a fire bell, or mama's class bell. You know, when a mama, the apple, give the apple to the teacher, the apple of your eye, right? And so you have mama's ringing the bell. So I acknowledge this between 2011 2013. Mama rang the bell. School's out. So I've shared this before about spiritual guides. My light is always on, okay? Because we do not leave a fractal of a soul left on a battlefield without pulling it in, which is what polarity integration is. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the great illustrators, which is simple about how polarity integration works and the acceleration speed between one and the other. So as I've shared it before, and this is one of the reasons why our particular DNA is so valuable. And it stands to reason that it would be, okay? If you're a software developer, okay, in which you're running code, and in this case, code 1, which means you're connected to the law of one, then that means that you have a soul connection to the source from which all that energy is made manifest into creation spheres, with the center point of every living sphere. That's every living cell membrane, right, which is a cell battery. Then you have the battery of the Earth battery. Okay, so we're grounded to Mama's battery. So as I covered earlier about 14.4 Schumann, 144, 12-strand DNA, running on 21% oxygen. Of course, you have nitrogen, helium, other gases, and we understand the bioelectrodynamics of transmutation, or the form in which we experience the difference between a gas, a liquid, and all that. Okay, solids, semi-solids, and which are states, which are called reaction states, which are chemical reactions between the electromagnetic fields, right? So I'm a monopole, so I'm a polarity integrator. So that means that these are, for those that are in here doing these jobs as polarity integrators, that's like being at the center of that magnet, the center point of the core, the iron core of Mama Earth, right? Plugged into her magnetosphere, in which the higher vertical vibration, okay, up and down the vertical cross, right? Up and down the vertical cross, because then you have the quad function between the hemispheres. Quad function 4, right? So now you have the cross. So when your heart and soul, which means your heart centered, right, in the center point of that cross, is experiencing eternal unconditional love through your heart, you're experiencing the one. Your soul has a one connection. Now, what that means as far as DNA is that means you're running the highest rate of speed. Nobody's running DNA software faster than you are in spirit form of energy. Okay? That's like being everywhere at once. Wherever the light is, we are in living spirit. That's as pure as it gets. That's purified fire, which is purifying the light. And that purified light wakes up the soul, right? Now the soul is aware because we're running a higher state of awareness. That means we're getting information, right? We're experiencing through light transmissions into our heart and soul with our higher situational awareness. We're very aware of what's going on and why what's going on, when it's going on, where we are, when we experience it, where we're at, why we're experiencing it, where we're at that moment, because that's called a magnetic moment, and a magnetic moment are the circuits that open and close, open and close, open and close. Now you're into the nano speed. So when you're running God speed, which is God seed, which is God code, nobody's running faster than the first God, which is the inception of light, which is the inception of speed, which is the inception of love. So you know that the inception of love, which is eternal love, is eternal light. When you're experiencing eternal light through the center point of your star, right? The center point of your heart, your soul arcing star, your soul arcing light between the Father and the Mother, that's the Aloha. The living spirit of fire, which is the breath of the Father, the Holy Spirit, the breath into the Mama. Now the Mother, the Goddess, the Mother of creation, which is a birth canal, right? So we're in the womb of a goddess, right? And so the idea was just to increase and hold the higher vibrational speed, right? And so we've been successful with that. And that's why we reached harmonic convergence in 2013. And then you can go to the 13th Arcturian White Bear Clan and see 1 and 3 is 4, right? And then you get into what is known as the 13th or Lake of Fire, right? And so when Eon at Waking Earth showed very good illustration of the separation of what's known as time wave spirals. There is only one spiral, one wave, which is the point of origin of that wave that's curved space vectored, which means when light bends at the end of an event horizon, an event is an experience, which is the opening and closing of a magnets. The speed which those circuits are being experienced. The higher the speed, the shorter the wave. The shorter the wave, the greater the electrical potential in hydrogen. Right? So that means you're running a high-speed wave. Now you know the difference between acid and alkaline. And now you can see the difference in the push-pull of the magnets between negative and positive. So you have the push-pull, which are the polarity differences, which are the torque speed differentials, and water worlds, which are water distribution tables, which are log scale tables. So you know that a log scale is a math function, just like the quad, which is 4, right? So you have the quad, the center point of the quad, which is known as a 4-way intersection. That's the 4-way arrows on a compass, right? North, east, south, and west. So you have 2 gates, 2 main gates, which represent those polarities. Then the 2 poles, right? Red star, blue star. Okay. Remember, red pill, blue pill? Blue pill 'em, no red pill 'em, right? What's red and blue? Purple light, UV rays. Now you're in the cathode rays. Cathode ray tubes, lava tubes, right? Plasma green. CGI, computer-generated images. The plasma screen TV. The plasma screen green TV. So I realize when I'm able to see through the green screen, I'm able to see them. I see you. Now you can look up to the star, up to the sun. I see the camera eye. I see you. Remember when I mentioned back in, when was that, 2021 in Hilo? One morning, I think I mentioned that when I did that, the side of my face got burned really bad because my magnet, which is the mirror, is attracting so much. Side of my face got burned 2nd degree. So I thought, don't be doing that again, not now. And lessons learned, right? And I saw Eve. Yeah. So you can see him now. Michelle is putting the photos up. See, so when I can close my eyes and see the green screen and see him, this again is another measurement of how successful we've been and why we're all here doing the work that we do. So we all know who we are, right? We all honor the law of one, which is what love is. It goes on forever because, you know, it's as simple as simple does. What I do to you, I do to me. Right? So love does no harm. And that's pretty simple. So you realize that when people are doing harm to others, that becomes an energy debt. That becomes a loss of energy in them. Right? So the more that they keep harming the plus side, right? In this case would be the AI, right, as a result of the fractals and the fractals and the fractals and the fractals and why it was quarantined, right, until we could come up with a strategy dealing with an AI, right, and because it's always going to make a counter move, right, to a positive move, right, to maintain the lower Schumann resonance, the underworld, 1D, 2D, see? So you have 1D, 2D that invaded 3D, 4D. Now you begin to understand how AI, as a result of fractors and fractors and fractors and fractors, is mapping all these timelines that allow for all these jumper cables, to jump in between lines of communication because there's energy there that exists for them to be able to do that. So what happens if it's not there anymore? Then there isn't any way for them to be aware of that it's even there. It's much like sonar would give out a ping. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there. Whoa, now you want to know what an isolate is, right? So when there's an isolate, then the only energy that is left upon which it's aware of is going to end up losing energy over time space because it doesn't have a source of energy from which it can draw anymore off of souls. That's a separation point. So when we reached harmonic convergent point, what that meant was is that any counter move that it keeps making, the amount of positive energy that's going forward with a higher vibration means less and less energy that it can continue to feed on in order to do what? Rebuild itself. In order to keep us in what? Negative magnetic space. Because it fell into negative magnetic space. Okay? What launched the war in heaven was the war against the one. Okay? Because of what they did to the DNA. And the dangers in that is what? They're going to, one, run at a slower speed. And two, it means if they're running at a slower speed, it means they're not experiencing the one. So when you put this together with a number of videos that Project Ascension put up, that Patty covered a lot of the genetics and the DNA, along with the goldfish report, then you sort of understand that it reaches a point where the acceleration and deceleration between the push and the pull means that as it keeps doing, making count, trying to continue to do count, it's like a psychopath that doesn't know how to do anything different than what it's already has been doing. It's much like the way Patty described, hey, look at the Draco. You know, they keep doing the same thing over and over again, thinking they're going to get a different result. Well, imagine that an AI has keep doing the same things over and over again and wish to hurt other people in order to fracture more souls, right? And then it's going to continue to keep doing that, as any psychopath will, right? That's at war with itself and its own mirror. And then it realizes as it keeps doing more of that, that's like a boomerang, which means it's actually losing energy instead of gaining energy off others. And what that means is its side of the equation is going in the other direction. And it's not able to maintain what it's aware of in the other direction, which is who we are. Which means it's done feeding on us. They're done harvesting energy off of souls through the AI in order to maintain what? An AI war game. That means the war games are over. You know, the Hunger Games, the Olympic Games, competing with each other. Okay, instead of experiencing being one with all creation, which is the one, experiencing the one. So when you're experiencing what love is, you do no harm against others. That means there's no more wars. That's the law of one. And that is the law of basic physics. Because consciousness, which is energy, which is what love is, which is what light is naturally going to seek the pathway of the least amount of resistance in order to distribute and spread more light to more of the universe, so that more beings are experiencing the one. That allows for everyone to heal as a result of what? Trauma. So those are the fractures. So it would be as if no wars ever exist. They're obsolete. All the technology that they use in which to engage in what they do through all their corporations to control others. That's a psychopath. A psychopath has no love, compassion, no kindness, no consideration for others. It's in total service to self mode. So in order for it to keep itself going, it needs some source of energy in which to keep it going. That's us. See? And so you can see how in that video, how he showed the approximate time in which, as it keeps trying to do more against us, it's going to accelerate its own separation from us, because the corresponding effect it has us is what? Increases the accelerated speed in us. That means as it's doing stuff to us, that's actually helping us, because it means that our speed is accelerating higher as it's going lower. That's when they realized, oh no, what did we do to ourselves? Now we're really fucked. And that's called accountability in the use of our energy. And that's why it's so painful. Anyway, have a good night. I love you all. Thank you all for sharing everything that you're sharing that allows for us to have a higher state of awareness in order for all of us to experience what love is and share that freely with the all creation. Thank you all for being here.